Hollow Knight is an incredible 2017 Metroidvania game which has a very active speedrunning community, competing across many different categories, but mostly any percent. The objective of this run is to simply beat the game as quickly as possible, and currently, the No Major Glitches world record is sitting at 31 minutes and 47 seconds, a very impressive and competitive time. However, we won't be talking about that today. Personally, I'm a big fan of really weird and niche speedruns, so when I found content creator Skurry's 50-hour speedrun of Hollow Knight, I had to check it out. And what I found out was that Skurry ran a category referred to as low percent. Low percent is a category of speedruns where the objective is not to beat the game as fast as possible, but rather to beat it with the lowest completion percent. In many games, the normal speedrun already beats the game with low completion, but in most games, specific items are grabbed to make the run easier or faster. In Hollow Knight's case, the true ending, or TE any percent run, has a completion percentage of 37%, but the community has been able to get the TE low percent run to 23%. But for that cut in percentage, about 50 hours are added to the overall runtime, making this one of the longest speedruns I've ever seen. When I say true ending, I'm referring to finishing the game with the Dream No More ending, which requires you to beat the secret final boss, Radiance, by obtaining the Awoken Dream Nail. The main obstacle in beating this run is gathering the 1800 essence required for said nail, but I'll give a little bit more context to that later. For now, let's talk about how TE low percent has changed over time. The main runner of this category is the content creator Skurry, because why would anyone do this if not for content? Their first run had a completion percentage of 26%, 3% more than today's record. The biggest development from the original run to today is that Hollow Knight runners were able to figure out how to do the White Palace section wingless. If you're unfamiliar, White Palace is a pretty difficult platforming area that you need to get through in order to get a piece of the King's Soul, a required collectible for this run. However, it's fully intended to be done with wings, which is basically an unlockable double jump. A lot of the jumps are very difficult without them, and some are straight up impossible, or maybe I should say, were. In the 26% route, wings were required for White Palace, but in the past year, runners discovered a vital trick called Stall Ball. This refers to stalling the Vengeful Spirit ability, which is basically a fireball, then pogoing off of it by slashing down at it, which will bounce you up. The pogoing had been known about since the game came out, but the stalling part of the trick was very new. Basically, this has to do with level geometry, more specifically the hitboxes of the walls. You can see here that certain walls have a slope, and by firing the Vengeful Spirit at those slopes in a specific spot, it'll cause it to slow down drastically, giving Skurry time to pogo off of it and make jumps that were previously impossible without wings. By no means are these jumps easy, but they're doable, and that's what's important. Now, since the wings aren't necessary, that brings the completion down by 3%. 2% from the wings themselves, and an extra 1% from skipping the boss that leads to them. Great progress. However, skipping this boss adds a lot of extra time to the run in a very unfortunate way. Back to what I said earlier in the video about gathering 1800 essence. The boss required to get the wings also grants you 400 essence. So by skipping the boss, you're skipping the essence. But getting essence isn't that hard. Every boss gives some, so you should be in a pretty good spot, right? Well, by the time the low percent true ending run gets finished with killing the bosses and everything before they buy the Awoken Dream Nail, which cost 1800 essence, they only have about 900, half of what they need. Oh, and that's before accounting for skipping the Lost Kin boss for wings, so 500 out of 1800. So how are they going to get the rest of the essence? Well, there's a mechanic in the game where by killing random mobs, there is a tiny chance of getting one essence. And by tiny, I mean a 1 in 300 chance for each kill. Luckily, runners are able to grab the Dream Wielder charm for no extra percentage, upping the probability to 1 in 200, but that's still a very small chance. If we quickly do the math, runners will need about 1300 essence, and with a 1 in 200 chance, that's about 260,000 mobs they need to kill on average in order to get enough. So that's what they do. In the original 26 completion run, Skurry used a room with a few bird respawns and a route to consistently kill them. With having to go back and forth to spawn the birds, as well as moving around to kill them, it took around 43 hours to get the 900 essence needed for that run. So in the updated run, doing the same bird strat for 1300 essence would add on about 20 extra hours to that, which is undesirable to say the least. But luckily, they were able to come up with a better strategy for grinding mob kills. The Hive is a section of the world where a bunch of B-type enemies are. Usually, players go here to kill the Hive Knight, but low percent TE runners do something entirely different. There is a room with a few husk hives, which consistently spit out hivelings, an easy to kill mob. If Skurry can trap the husk hives in a corner, they are unable to escape, and with so many next to each other, eventually the little bees stop having collision entirely, allowing Skurry to basically just AFK grind by swinging the nail over and over again. Once the grind is over, in this case a 47-hour one, it's time for the run to end. They do Wingless White Palace. They grab the Void Heart, kill the Hollow Knight, and fight the Radiants. This is already a hard fight, but the Wingless run makes it much harder to avoid attacks and even hit the boss. But after an incredibly impressive fight, Skurry finishes out the low percent true ending run with 23% completion and a time of 49 hours, 59 minutes, and 50 seconds, barely getting a sub 50-hour time. And that's where the record for this category is today, and I doubt anyone else is going to run this anytime soon. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to drop a sub and check out my other content. I swear the runs are shorter. Also, go check out Skurry's channel. They make really fun and interesting Hollow Knight content and are definitely worth the sub.